What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, we had a very exciting announcement for PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, specifically a trio of games that are heading into PlayStation Plus Premium Classic section, and well, I'm curious how all this is going to work out since this is going through that sort of remaster-like treatment that we've seen a lot of these classic titles get, but we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about more rumors that have broken out around Xbox and them potentially moving some other big marquee titles over to PlayStation, with one in particular now being called out as soon as next week. And then we'll also be talking about the next Final Fantasy VII Remake entry, as we would like to see it sooner rather than later, but it seems like Square may have some other plans to maybe have this one take a little longer. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members to the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're gonna start today with a game that is finally making its way out west after releasing in Japan last year. That is Bakeru. There's a full trailer that was released here for it, and this is actually coming to us from Goodfeel and Spike Chunsoft. The game is currently set at a price of $40. It comes in a file size of 3.1 gigabytes, and many people have kind of placed this alongside of like Goemon, Mystical Ninja. It's that kind of 3D action adventure platformer style game that definitely reminds me of titles from back during that PS2 GameCube-like era, where you just got all kinds of platformers thrown at us, and it definitely has that sort of that anime flair to it. But it does look like a lot of fun, and here's the best part. There is a demo that is now available on the eShop. It is heading to Switch and PC, so really cool stuff. I did go ahead and download the demo on my Switch. I just haven't had a chance to check it out, but I think I will be picking this one up when it releases on September 3rd, so exciting stuff there. Also, we did get the release date for Until Dawn, which we knew was coming out at some point this year. Now we have that exact release date, October 4th. In fact, there was an entire comparison video that was put out by Sony. You can see some of that here, where they're trying to, yes, show you it looking different with the newer visuals. It does, but it is kind of that situation where people are like, yeah, it looks better, sure. But they also went over some other details in the PlayStation blog post, saying it's overhauled visuals are rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5. They revised cinematography, there's production design and new camera control mechanics, reworked the prologue, there's new collectibles, customizable settings, and yeah, we are still in that situation of diminishing returns, to where I think the game does look better, but it's like, how much better does it have to look to sort of get the point across, especially for a game like Until Dawn, which I know they're also doing like a movie and stuff, and most likely there is going to be an Until Dawn 2 that's going to be revealed probably at a showcase here, I think pretty soon. But hey, if you missed out on the first Until Dawn, this, of course, looks like a nice rework of it coming out October 4th, actually just in time for that Halloween season. Oh, and check this out. We had one person who broke a Guinness World Record testing out the switcher boxes in line, a TV's ability to read multiple systems, and how far you can push the status of fire hazard. But there is a video that was showcasing it here, as one man managed to hook up 444 video game consoles to a single TV, and you know what? They all worked. Now, in order to do this, it appears Ibrahim Al-Nassar hooked up with 30 RCA switchers, 12 HDMI switchers, converters, and it looked like even more than that to make this work. And I mean, he went across the full spectrum from like the early days of gaming all the way up to the newest PlayStation 5 revision. So I mean, it's impressive to look at. I don't think it's practical or something you would just leave hooked up at all times, but sure, this person was able to hook up more than 440 systems to a TV, and they got a nice certificate to showcase it. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium. We knew we were going to get an announcement this week, as that pretty much lines up with their schedule for when they do make the announcement, and then usually it's about a week for all of the games to go be playable on the service, which same case here. All the games we're about to talk about will be available on PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium tier starting August 20th. And I will say, we were waiting for one of these games to pop up since we saw it rated, but I wasn't expecting a whole bunch of these games to go in all at once. But let's start at the top here, this over on PlayStation blog. The first game they outlined was Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. That's on PS4 and PS5. Wild Hearts, that's the standard edition on PlayStation 5. Cult of the Lamb, PS4, PS5. Ride 5 on the PS5, which if I remember right, I think it was this one that was making the rounds on social media a couple years ago, and it looked like it was real life when the person was driving around on the bike, I think through like a neighborhood area. So, hey, if you want at least a visual showcase for your PlayStation 5, maybe a brand new OLED, fire that one up. Watch Dogs 2 on the PS4 is returning, so there you go. And then I noticed there's a ton of Sword Art Online going into the service here. We have, let's see, Last Recollection, then we also have Alicization Lycoris, I'm not sure what I just read there, Fatal Bullet, and Hollow Realization, that on the PS4, and then we also have Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker on the PlayStation 4. Moving up to PlayStation Plus Premium, we do have our PSVR 2 game for the month. That is Vacation Simulator. So it is good that we see Sony moving games into the service to at least give PSVR 2 owners something here for PlayStation Plus Premium. Still, though, I don't know if Vacation Simulator is something that would make me want to pick up the headset and get all set up for it, but either way, you might as well claim it again and add it to your library. But then, to me, moving to the main event, check this out. We have Time Splitters 1, that's on the PS4 and the PS5, Time Splitters 2 on the PS4 and the PS5, and Time Splitters Future Perfect, PS4 and PS5. And then strangely enough, Sword Art Online Lost Song, there are 3 stars there, mostly because it's available as a streaming version only. And I checked this out because I was a little confused on that one. This game did come out on the Vita, the PS3, and the PS4. I guess this is the PS3 version of it, which is interesting. I don't know if the PS4 was just region-based or something. It's odd they wouldn't just pick the PS4 version, but nonetheless, it appears they are picking the PS3 one, I guess, to stream here. Anyway, the thing that people would care about, obviously, for the premium and the classics would be all these Time Splitters games going in, and these are games that already ran very smoothly, I say fairly smoothly, on the PlayStation 2 way back in the day, the early 2000s. And now you're moving here to the PlayStation 5, where, of course, it will still maintain that higher frame rate, but also, I think, looks smoothed out visually better, as we've seen with some of the other classic titles. The only thing that might be a little disappointing here is I would have liked to have seen them utilize something like how Nintendo is, where they are able to take the local split-screen play and tunnel it through the internet, and you basically have online multiplayer with these older games. Think of what we've seen with something like GoldenEye, for example. That was a really cool release on Nintendo's platform specifically because they were able to pretty much get around the issue of not allowing to change the code up that much, like we saw with Microsoft, where you can't have online play for their version. Well, Nintendo you can, because it's just built into the emulator, you connect, and it basically tricks the game into thinking that you're playing locally, but you're really playing online. That would have been a really cool thing to see Sony maybe set up here with their emulator that they're using, so that you could play online against friends in either of these Time Splitters games. Still, though, it is really awesome to see these games go in. I would say if you're just going to pick one and you're like, all right, I'll just try it out, I am partial to Time Splitters 2, but because most likely you're going to sit down and play it, I assume single player wise, Future Perfect's probably the one you want to check out. I'm also going to be curious about the trophy list and stuff for this. So yes, I will absolutely be firing up all these Time Splitters games just to try them out, and then probably settling on 2 to get started and go through some of the trophies and stuff. All of this, of course, going into the service August 20th. Make sure you check out at least one Time Splitters game, just see what everyone's been talking about. Next up, let's talk about the potential for another big Xbox title to be heading to PlayStation. This coming from Microsoft and their first-party studios, and we've already seen this happen, right? Microsoft had to have an entire business update podcast just to try to calm everyone down a bit as they move things like Sea of Thieves over to the PlayStation 5, and so far, that seems to have done really well for them, so naturally, when you see those results, they're going to start looking around to see what else they can move over, so this shouldn't be a major shock to people, but it still seems to be every time these rumors and reports pop up. Well, we can see this is posted up over on Xbox Era, where they say on the infamous forum Reset Era, users Nate's over there apparently, and Shinobi have both intimated that Xbox has a new PS5 port coming soon. Noted leaker Extus then dropped a Cinco de Mayo GIF, leading many to speculate the title would be Forza Horizon 5. Interesting. Okay, so the Forza people may not look at Forza the same way as they do for something like Halo or Gears, but Forza is also a storied Xbox franchise. I mean, it was there on the original Xbox, and when it first came out, people looked at it and said, oh wow, this feels like it's a better game than Gran Turismo, and that is one that is kind of ingrained now in gaming. And here's this new title, Forza, on the Xbox. And then obviously from there, they've been building on it ever since, with most recently technically Forza Motorsport 8. But then they've spun it off to things like Forza Horizon that was incredibly successful as well, being more of an open world arcade style sim. And Forza Horizon 5, I think, would do pretty well on PlayStation because it is different from Gran Turismo, which is a track-based simulating driving game. That's not really what Forza Horizon is, so if they decided to move Forza Horizon 5 over, I think you would see it like at the top of PlayStation's charts on their own store. Here's the issue, though. Doesn't really seem to be the case, because we can see this posted up. This is from Jez Corden, who says, I could see it happening someday, but this time around, it ain't Forza. And I will tell you, I have reason to believe it's also not Forza, is what I'll say. Now, what is it? Well, that I'm not really sure of technically. If I had to take a guess, all right, because obviously people are building themselves up, bracing for impact, if you will, as some massive thing. Starfield, that's going to PlayStation. Halo, Forza. What if it was just Flight Simulator? Would that be a problem for people if Flight Simulator showed up and was like, hey, it's going to PlayStation? I don't really feel like many people would mind that much. And that is still a big game for Microsoft. Many people do play it and get a kick out of it. So that actually going to PlayStation and bringing, at that point, what's still a very unique experience to the platform, which is still why I believe Sea of Thieves did so well, because there's nothing really like it out there. Flight Simulator, still kind of the same thing, right? There's nothing really like Flight Simulator when it comes to the tech and the kind of the sim aspects that it has. So move that over to PlayStation. It's on Xbox. It's on PC. Yeah, I think it'll just continue to grow its audience. But I guess we'll see next week, which, by the way, that's when Gamescom is. So maybe that's where the announcement is. Next up, let's talk about Valve, SteamOS, and the ROG Ally. See, being able to use SteamOS on the Steam Deck and that just coming natively with the system has actually been a huge benefit for that platform, because Valve's been able to update the OS alongside of the hardware, and it's actually had it punching well above, I would say, its weight class. Well, in this case, it does look like Valve is also looking more and more at some other handheld devices like the ROG Ally. In fact, we can see this over on The Verge. They say a few days ago, some spotted an intriguing line in Valve's latest SteamOS release notes mentioning added support for extra ROG Ally keys. We didn't know Valve was supporting any ROG Ally keys at all, let alone extras. The interesting thing here is that they have now referenced the ROG Ally specifically, and we know out of the PC handheld scene, you have like Steam Deck, ROG Ally, those are, I think, the two big ones right now. You have like Lenovo, sure, the Legion Go, yeah, but I think the ROG Ally is probably one of the more popular ones that's not called the Steam Deck at this point. But the interesting thing here is, of course, people are wondering, is that just like, oh, they're throwing it out there because of like a bug fix or a patch, just because people are unofficially using it and they want to make sure it's not going to completely destroy their system? Well, this actually from Valve saying the note about ROG Ally keys is related to third-party device support for SteamOS. The team is continuing to work on adding support for additional handhelds on SteamOS. And it does seem like Valve is moving more and more towards the idea of SteamOS being just natively supported for the ROG Ally. And that's interesting because that would technically go right up against Microsoft with Windows. And there is certainly an opportunity there for Valve with SteamOS, since we've just watched Microsoft drag their feet with Windows for these handheld devices. It's just not a great experience navigating Windows at all with something like the ROG Ally. So if Steam shows up and sets up something that is similar to what we have the SteamOS on the Steam Deck, where it's able to run alongside the hardware much better than having Windows and then running Steam. It's closer at like an OS level. So if that was the case, it actually wouldn't shock me if SteamOS very quickly became more of the default for these handhelds. And you never know, maybe there's a day where Asus looks around and goes, oh, well, yeah, we'll just ship with SteamOS. It makes way more sense. And then Microsoft would have completely missed out on that PC handheld sector. So Microsoft might want to get moving here on that, figuring out Windows more around some of this stuff, because otherwise, yeah, Valve will definitely move in and take over with SteamOS pretty quickly. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake, the series at this point, as we have, of course, Remake, Rebirth, and we're trying to figure out what that last one is going to be called. Maybe Redemption? Maybe? It's hard to say. We'll get to that, I'm sure, later on, but the idea of trying to develop and get this game out maybe even faster than what we saw Rebirth and try to close out this generation, I think is very important for Square. But now it appears there's a new consideration here, maybe even changing the entire engine and moving up to Unreal Engine 5. This we can see was posted up by Genki, who says Final Fantasy VII Rebirth director Naoki Hamaguchi said Rebirth took 4 years to develop in parallel with Final Fantasy VII Integrate. Says they are considering using Unreal Engine 5 for the final game, but believes what players want most is for them to deliver the game in good shape as soon as possible. So it seems like they're weighing their options here, and they're going to make the decision just based on whether it will be faster to switch engines or if it really will put them behind too much to where I think they won't be able to get it out for this generation's end. And I think that's an important thing. They want all these games to be available right there on the PS5. Take advantage of that larger install size by the time the game comes out, which I mean, it's probably like 2027, 2028 for the final entry in this series. And then, of course, we know what they're going to do. Package them all together and resell it on the PS6 or move everything to the PS6. I'm sure they want to get as much as possible out of these 3 games, and there's a lot of things they can do after they're all out on the PS5, whether it's porting and moving over to other platforms with Nintendo, or we see with PC, or who knows, maybe Microsoft cuts them a big check and it shows up on the next system after, of course, all the Sony exclusivity stuff runs up. Provided it can actually on consoles. We still have yet to see that one. But still, I do think at this time, probably sticking to Unreal Engine 4 is the way to go, just to make sure everything is smooth and it transitions well enough to the final game in this series. The last thing they need is to complicate it any further, and it ends up like in 2029 or 2030 or something, because then obviously expectations will be through the roof. And at this point, they kind of need to just figure out this story, wrap it up, and have some sort of conclusion that makes it feel like they knew where they were going the whole time, because right now they're kind of off the rails with it. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, have you bought any of the PlayStation Plus Premium Classic games, PS1, PS2, PSP, outright? 81% say no, 19% say yes. So I saw many people were like, well, I was already kind of subscribed and I saw some games drop in and I just moved up to premium. And I saw some say, yes, I bought one game because I didn't feel like signing up for it, and others say no, obviously. But I think there are also many people who don't realize you can just buy these games outright. You don't have to sign up to premium or extra or whatever. If you see a game pop up there, you just go, oh, cool. You know what? I am going to buy that PlayStation 2 game. Like, maybe you do want Time Splitters Future Perfect, you can buy it. Now, of course, it also is going to depend on the pricing, where you're like, oh, that game is like $20. That feels like a lot. Maybe I'll wait for a sale, or maybe I will subscribe and move my extra tier up because it's like that, not that much of a difference, and then I can take advantage of all these games. But still, I do like the option, because we do see other platform holders like Nintendo who won't give you the option to buy that one Game Boy Advance game maybe you want to play. No, instead you have to move up and buy their expansion pack service. I like the idea of having kind of the best of both worlds and be able to pick how you want to get the game. And we'll finish up with the comments of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from CJ, who says, quality of life updates are planned for different seasons. Surely quality of life updates should be added immediately if they know that they needed addressing. They're literally saying, buy our game now and we will make it better in the future. Well, this, I think, comes back to them having their beta very close to release. They probably should have had their beta at the beginning of the year, around that time, that like Q1 calendar year time period. And that would have given them more time to work in some of these quality of life features that I'm sure is mostly coming from the feedback that they got even out of that beta, as there was a lot of people discussing the game. Yes, many people just saying the game was bad, but there are other people mentioning like the movement speed, time to kill, options around the different characters' builds. So those sorts of things, of course, now are being worked on, but they're not going to be ready until after it comes out. And I guess in their mind, we'll work it in as an additional feature for these free updates that we're doing. And oh yeah, now we've fixed that bug. And then also added these extra cinematics and this new free gunner and that kind of thing, just to make it as sort of an event. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Quality of life, bug fixes, that's part of the roadmap. Oh, in this case, for this live service game, yeah, it is. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you did miss yesterday's Newswave, I'll have it up here next to me in this card. Or maybe you want to see this Halo demake for the Game Boy Color. I also checked that one out in a video. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.